How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. We got a lot to talk about here on the show today. I have seen a lot of wrestling over the last couple of days, not the least of which the NXT television show from Wednesday night, and also the main matches from the New Japan shows over the last couple of days. I have seen the Dragon Lee Taiji Ishimori match, which I thought was a great match. I think before a different crowd, it would have been a much better match. It took a long time to get the crowd out of that match. Saw the Ishii Evil match, which I loved. If you're a fan of Ishii and Evil, and the two of them together, you will, in fact, love this match. And Sanada versus Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight title, which Okada won. In a match that I found to be weird, in the sense that Sanada took like 80% of the match, and Okada sold and he 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 sold. And in a lot of Okada big matches, you'll see a Rainmaker, you'll see a second Rainmaker, you'll see that big third Rainmaker, and he gets the win. Well, in this match, Sanada beat him and beat him and beat him and beat him. Put him in the skull end 3 times. And on the third time, it looked like there's no way Okada's getting out of it this time. And the referee raised the hand once. He raised the hand twice. And before he could raise the hand the third time, Sanada let go of the hold, and he went up to hit the big moonsault. And he hit one to Okada's back, and he tried a second one. Okada got the knees up, and Okada went on to hit a one single Rainmaker to get the win. So this is now at least the second time that Sanada appears to have had Okada beaten. But instead of keeping the skull end on, he goes up top for that moonsault, and it costs him. I think he was in the running for Geek of the Week last time. Now he's done it again. So, interesting finish. And when it was over, they built up Okada's next big challenger, who just happens to be, of all people, Chris Jericho. We could talk about New Japan. We could talk about WWE. Vince's plan to turn things around on Monday. And yes, there is a plan. And so much more. Back in a moment. Observer Live. Back on the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Friday afternoon, I posted Friday's edition of Wrestling Observer Live, and I headlined it, "Callers Try to Figure Out How to Fix WWE." And as a little ha-ha, down below I wrote, "They fail." Some people thought that was very funny. Well, over the course of an hour, a bunch of callers had a bunch of ideas about how to turn this around. You know what? Nobody came up with the idea that Vince McMahon came up with in all of his brilliance. And his answer is, the solution to this problem is to render the brand split meaningless. So the plan for Monday is Roman Reigns is coming back to Raw. Roman Reigns, of course, has been drafted to SmackDown. But on Twitter, Roman Reigns noted that, "I've got unfinished business on Raw. I'll see y'all Monday." And the hashtag was "Protect the Yard." Which, by the way, it's not even his yard anymore. SmackDown's his yard. He even said that himself. But that's their idea. So, looks like he's going back to Raw on Monday. Storyline is WWE's not going to let him be on Raw because he's a SmackDown guy, but of course he's going to be there anyway. And that's their new idea to try to turn the ratings around. Roman Reigns back on Raw. And while I was not... I wouldn't even give myself a win in the prediction contest, but I did say, like, this idea that SmackDown is going to get every big name during the draft, and Raw is going to be like a B show all the way until October because SmackDown's moving to Fox, it ain't going to happen. And it didn't happen. And now they're already moving people back to Raw because Raw got a bad number, and it's still the A show. Could do more shuffling come September, October, but for now, they just got to keep that Raw show strong because it's just embedded in them. So that's the plan for Monday. The big dog back on Raw.
Why don't they keep both shows strong? That would be nice. Maybe they could do that.
Well, SmackDown is already 15% weaker. So I'm sure they figure, well, if we boost Raw, SmackDown will follow.
Oh, of course. A rising tide lifts all ships. Correct?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Vince, in the investors' call, even used that exact phrase. When they move to Fox, they're going to get so much promotion from Fox. A rising tide, he says, shall lift all these ships.
Of course it will.
That's what he's expecting. Yeah.
Well, every college football fan and every professional football fan will jump on board now that just because they're on Fox. I guess it's possible.
Well, I mean, that's not going to happen, but that's his claim.
No. What did they draw for SmackDown this week? What are they viewership-wise?
1.8 million.
1.8, yeah. Got to see what Fox did on Friday night, because something tells me whatever the programming did, it was probably larger than 1.8 million. I know they're going to increase to like maybe 2.5 million just because they're going to be on Fox in the fall, but we'll see how that all works out for them.
So, Monday up against the NBA playoffs, and by the way, I should add, I don't know necessarily if one has to do with the other, okay? But there's usually a SmackDown show on Monday night, okay? Raw runs live, and there's a SmackDown house show. So there was scheduled to be a house show in, of all places, Corbin, Kentucky, this coming Monday night. And with Roman Reigns being announced as being on Raw, they canceled that show. So I don't know. Listen, everybody. My presumption is they didn't cancel Monday because they needed Roman Reigns on Raw. I mean, there have been plenty of SmackDown shows without Roman Reigns that have run just fine, okay? I presume that the advance was so bad that they just decided they had to cancel the show. I mean, one way or the other, it's bad. There are two options for no SmackDown house show on Monday and being canceled midweek. Number one, nobody bought tickets. That's bad. Or number two, they felt that Raw was doing so poorly that they needed Roman Reigns on Raw, and so when they took him off the SmackDown house show, they canceled the house show. Either of these are bad. I'm not sure exactly which one it is, but I do know it is a fact that Monday night house show was canceled earlier this week, and so it will not be taking place.
And that was in Corbin, Kentucky.
Corbin, Kentucky.
Where the population is 7,500?
Well, I don't know what the population is. You want me to look it up?
It's something like that. I know it's not much because it's not big at all. So, yeah, you might want to look that one up, because if they couldn't draw in a town that's got 7,500.
7,300 people there. Corbin, Kentucky.
Well, hey.
Well, you know, I can't believe I'm trying to defend WWE, but sometimes you can run a show in a location where there's like a lot of other cities around it that you can draw from. And sometimes when you're in a town where there's nothing going on, when the circus comes to town, everybody goes.
Yeah.
But anyway, they canceled it, so apparently everyone's not going to go to the circus.
No, the circus is out.
We've also got this for SmackDown. We've got the announced... And by the way, I mean, can someone start taking notes on this so we can find out what percentage of things actually take place on Tuesday? Because a fair number of them never happen. So this Tuesday, as of right now, they're announcing Bayley, Ember, and Carmella versus Charlotte, Mandy, and Sonya in a 6-woman tag, as well as Ali versus Andrade, and the announcement that Shane McMahon will be crowning new tag team champions of SmackDown on Tuesday. So they're not saying they're going to be doing a tournament. They're not saying he will announce the status of the titles. They are stating that he will crown new champions on SmackDown. So
okay.
I would not be surprised, everyone. This is not necessarily a prediction. I don't want you to report this on the internet. This is merely speculation. I wouldn't be surprised if he put the titles on himself and some partner. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. Could be Elias. Very well could happen.
So what was that second thing you said was going to happen? It was Ali and who?
It is Ali. Where did I have it here? It was so compelling. I've already forgotten about it. Anyway, he's going to face somebody. I don't know.
Well, because I
don't even know where it went. It was right in front of me.
Of those three things that you mentioned, as far as what's going to happen, I bet you the women in the 6-man or in the 6-woman, that's going to happen. It's going to come down to one of the last two things. Either they're just
Ali
going to
Andrade.
Ali Andrade. So they're either going to have that match or they're not going to have that match, or Shane is just going to ignore anything he said and they'll just completely skip over the new champs thing. I think if one of those three things, if one of those is going to fail, it's going to be one of the other two. And I will go with the only singles match they have announced, whereas Ali and Andrade either goes 5 seconds or they don't have the match at all.
Dude, they could all fail. They could all fail.
One of them's got to make it. See, it's too easy when you have the women's, the 6 women's match. At least you have a reason. You'll have the ladder match.
Yeah, they could look at it. Here's how it could change. They could look at it and they could go, we positioned Carmel as a heel last Tuesday on SmackDown. Now we got her on the babyface side. There could be mass confusion and they have to change the match. That could happen.
I guess so.
By the way,
Vince.
Here's news. I've been told it is official. It was expected. But the June takeover from Parts Unknown will be in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And they will make that announcement tomorrow.
The metropolis known as Bridgeport, Connecticut. This was supposed to be in San Jose, correct?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yes. Later on in the show, I want to go over some of these odds. I promised this on Friday, but we didn't have time. Not a lot of... I'll just very quickly here. These are odds for Money in the Bank. Too far out for them to mean anything. But I did find it interesting that the odds makers at this point are putting Baron Corbin at plus 1,000 for the Money in the Bank. And I bring that up because so many people are presuming that Baron Corbin is going to win, but he is absolutely not the favorite in that Money in the Bank ladder match. Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, Braun Strowman, Ricochet, Ali, and Andrade all being given a better chance to win Money in the Bank than Baron Corbin. So there you go. Back in a moment with more Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. I'm going to go to the phones in a moment, but first off, Part says, guys, it's Richard from Baltimore. My question tonight, do you think WWE will ever make their network search engine and playlist better in searching?
Huh.
Well, actually, they recently left BAMTech, their original streaming provider, and they moved to Endeavor Streaming. And the impression that I was given was that they are rebuilding everything. And so probably around the time that they launch the tiered service, I think you will see a new and allegedly very much improved WWE Network. So we shall see. That would
let
probably
us
be
hope so. Let us
year.
also hope that it's universal amongst all platforms that it's on, too. So your viewing experience and search on a PlayStation is going to be the same as it would be on an Apple TV, is the same as it would be somewhere else, which would be a very nice improvement as well, too. But yeah, the search function is woefully, it's garbage, really, when it gets right down to it. How to search for shows, where they stick shows in the archive and all that sort of stuff. It is one huge, gigantic pain in the rear end, which is one of the only negatives I really have when it comes to the platform itself.
All right, let's go to the phones. You are on the air. What's going on?
I have two ideas on how to fix Raw's ratings.
I can't wait.
They got to do what they did in the past. They got rid of the special Raws that had, like, King of the Ring and sort of like the Cyber Monday, Raw Roulette. That no longer takes place. So that's idea number one. Idea number two is the guest host. So, like, how the Avengers host Raw. Like, how cool would it be for David Banner to host Monday Night Raw? Everyone wants to see the Incredible Hulk host Monday Night Raw, right?
You know, David Banner,
I would like to see that.
If anything, is going to spike those ratings, Ryan.
I want Bill Bixby to do it.
Yeah, where's he at? Is Andre the Giant around to be Bigfoot again? Actually, as much as people hate Ryan's calls, Ryan actually, believe it or not, made two good points. And that is that special episodes of Raw do draw, although I'm gonna talk more about that in a second. And believe it or not, they did decent numbers when they did the guest host gimmick. And shows with guest hosts often did better than shows without guest hosts. So I don't know why they don't do more guest hosts. I mean, they did the Saturday Night Live Geeks, but that was for some stupid WrestleMania idea. I mean, they should do it here and there. I don't know about the Incredible Hulk, but I mean, there are definitely people that could guest host that show. Now,
Well, hold on. And be fair here, though. When we go back to when they did have the weekly guest host where we had a different, they knocked on the door and it would open it up and it was wacky celebrity number 36 that would do the job. Hugh Jackman was fantastic. Jeremy Piven, not so much. So I don't know if we really want to delve back into those times
Well,
again.
Mike, here's what I'd say about that.
Uh-huh.
I would agree with you a year ago. But this show is so damn bad that, it's not going to take the show down to have some dingbat out there as a guest host.
I know, but when you already have,
It's already bad.
A house full of poop, do you really want to add another gift turd?
Hey, they might be better.
Well...
I mean, listen, would I rather see some random dude from Hollywood coming and doing something wacky, or Dana Brooke having to cut a robotic promo in a very insincere manner? I mean, what's the difference? Doesn't make any difference. You could have some guest host show up on the Firefly Funhouse. There's all sorts of things that you could do with a little bit of imagination. Now, the point I was going to make, Ryan is correct that WWE could do more of those special themed Raws. A King of the Ring episode, a roulette episode when they're in Vegas. But here's the problem. They've lost the plot. He doesn't know what he's doing anymore. I mean, we had a special episode of the show. It was called the Superstar Shakeup. You know what? It wasn't very special at all. The show started and we had a normal show, and 4 times during the show, a new dude came out, or a new woman. That was a Superstar Shakeup. That ain't very special. We've had... What was the other one that they did recently? It was so special I can't even remember it. It was another one that they did. It was supposedly a special episode of Raw or SmackDown. It was just like a show. I mean, if you can't make the Superstar Shakeup once a year where people jump from one brand, if you can't make that special, I got no hope in a King of the Ring or a Raw Roulette or any of that. They got to get back to making things exciting again. Now they just do stuff, which is not very exciting.
No, WWE couldn't have a special episode even if they had Gordon jump at the bicycle shop.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's up?
Hi, this is Jack in Montana.
Yes, Jack.
Since Roman is going to Raw, is he going to do the work to shoot this show sucks promo that they usually do when ratings are bad?
I don't think so. My impression is that the storyline is that he has a bone to pick with the McMahons. But of course, in storyline, the McMahons are on both shows. So, why does he have to go to Raw? Why can't he deal with the McMahons on SmackDown? I mean, my friend, one of the problems, as you and everybody else tries to make sense of all of this, is you're probably doing more thinking about it than they are. I mean, that's just... Or they're doing way too much thinking, which is the other problem. And they overthink everything, and they think themselves in circles, and by the time they get to a conclusion, it was just way too convoluted. Before we go back to the phones, I want to talk about a couple of New Japan things. So I watched the top match from the last couple of days, Dragon Lee, Taiji Ishimori. I thought that match, slow start, great finish, not great heat. I think that was the biggest issue I had. Crowd was into it at the end, but I just watched the match and I thought, if this crowd was going nuts for this match, people would be talking about this match as one of the matches of the year. But because the crowd was into it, but not super, super into it, it didn't feel like it was as great a match as I actually think it was watching what the guys were doing together. That's my thoughts on that match. Ishii and Evil, I just thought was great. I loved that match. It was actually my favorite match of the 3. Ishii getting that big win, I just thought, man, maybe he is going to get his big IWGP Championship match at some point. I doubt it's going to happen, but he got the win here, so that's all I could think about. It's not Okada, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show. It's got to be a storyline that Snot is an idiot. Am I wrong?
I don't know if I'd put it in those terms, but I have a feeling that him being infinitely confident or whatever it is, and he keeps screwing up, I think that's going to play into something, yes.
I mean, listen, they've had 6 matches. He's lost every single match against Okada. At least twice, and there may be another one I'm forgetting. He had it won with the skull end, and he let go to do a moonsault, and he screwed it up for himself. That's the story, right? Twice now he's done that.
You know that who would have done that kind of thing a couple of years ago? Okada. And I know it's not exactly the same parallels or anything like that, but Okada constantly coming up short against Tanahashi when it looked to be his time. Now you have Sonata, which you can play off of that in some ways. This looks to be his time. He comes off the tag team with Evil. He's got opportunities. He loses a title match, is essentially given another one right away, and loses that one too in the same sort of fashion. Hard to believe that they're not playing this
there
as something.
There has to be a story.
Yeah, whether it's going to be a turn against Naito and he finds some fun, whatever it's going to be down the line, it is playing into something. They usually don't do these things, especially not with a Sonata and how they want him positioned and how they're looking at him for the near future. It's got to be playing into that.
That was Jericho versus Okada is the next match, which I don't know about everybody else. I like it. It's something different. I mean, we just saw Okada Sonata. Now we saw it again. And Okada just feels like he's doing the same stuff right now because we saw him beat everybody forever during his reign. And then Omega won it. And, sure. I mean, it just sort of feels like,
It's a recycling period, isn't it?
Yeah, so we need something new here. And Chris Jericho is definitely new. I don't know if he's going to win the title.
He shouldn't. But it's a good time to have this match, I'll tell you that. I mean, with Jay White, you're obviously you had to do a stop now and a rebuild of him and see which direction you want to go. Kind of the same thing with Tanahashi while he's been out. You have Naito and Ibushi that are still tied up, with each other. It is a time. It's the perfect time to have somebody from the outside be in a title match and do something different with Okada. And I hope he doesn't. There's no reason for Jericho to win the title, and I don't think
I'll give you one reason.
No, well, look, I don't think anybody should expect or want him to win that title either. But what do you got?
I don't think he's going to win because he's with AEW. Okay, but if their plan for the rest of the year is like Okada beats Jericho. And then it's like Okada Jay White again, and then it's Okada Sonata again. I'm like, if their plan is recycling everything again, I want Jericho to win.
But here's the thing. They're not going to do that because you still have Ospreay down the line. You have Naito down the line. You have stories that are already built in that are moving forward with these other guys. You can't rush them yet because of the New Japan Cup, because of the G1, because of other reasons that they're going to have. But it's a perfect distraction. And the reality is either guy can win via DQ. The title doesn't change hands, and you would still want that match again, but still be okay with moving on as well too. This could really serve a lot of masters.
Got Ibushi Naito coming up at Dominion. They've wrestled twice this year, and Ibushi won both. So I wouldn't be surprised if Naito won the Intercontinental title, but Ibushi just signed his lifetime contract, so maybe he won't. But
yeah, it's funny, and I know we're pushing up to break that. We're going to see a recycling of Okada and a lot of the guys he's faced, but if they do the stories right, these new stories that they're going to have to tell with these players, with the Sabres, with the Ospreys, with some of these other guys, it could end up being really exciting.
Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Want to mention, if you go to my Twitter, at Bryan Alvarez, Give Big Day is right around the corner. And I've started a campaign page for Whale Scout. And it is available on my Twitter, at Bryan Alvarez. You can also go to givebig2019.org and search Whale Scout or F4W online. And looking for $1,000 in donations, and I will match every dollar that you donate. So if you donate $150, I will throw in $150, up to $1,000, and all of this money goes to buy trees and dirt and mulch and shovels and vests and printed materials for Whale Scout helping out events. Point is, none of this money goes to me or my wife. So it's all supplies to keep Whale Scout going. So that's up on my Twitter, at Bryan Alvarez. I want to thank everybody that has donated thus far. Really appreciate it. And yeah, check it out. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's up?
Hey, guys. Steve from Chicago.
Yes, Steve.
I don't have any solution for actually fixing the ratings other than the ones you guys have already stated.
No one
does.
I did
actually have Yeah, I did actually have like a theory on why the ratings drops have been getting so much bigger. Do you think that part of it is actually like the fact that the TV deals were signed that people are being run off now? Like I remember back before they got signed, like Raw was already hitting like record low ratings. So in theory, maybe were a bunch of fans who were thinking, well, they'll probably get shafted on their TV deal because the ratings are so low, and then they'll finally be forced to up their game. And then all of a sudden they get the biggest TV deal in their history, which then causes everybody to throw their hands up saying, oh, my God, there's no hope for the next 5 years, and finally tapping out. I mean, obviously, I don't think that's the only reason, but do you think that's one of the major factors in why the drops have been getting so much bigger?
No, I don't think there's maybe 5 people in the world. But see, here's the thing. When they were negotiating their TV deals, their ratings were up. So it's not like people were not watching and hoping that they would get a bad... I mean, they were watching. They were watching in much larger numbers than they are right now. And and the other thing you have to think is they signed their TV deals last spring, and the real drop-off started in the fall. So, and that's when the creative, I thought, went all to hell. I know a lot of other people agree. Apparently Dave does not. Dave thinks the creative is no worse now than it's ever been, but I'm flabbergasted that somebody could think that. I think it's just horrific right now.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about Dave saying that it's not.
I want to thank you very much for the call.
I mean, I'm baffled by that. For Dave saying it's not the worst that it's ever been. I remember him saying that and him kind of... It's not as bad as it was 2 weeks ago, which means it's not that bad. Yes, it is. It's really bad. Everything's, I mean, I don't know. Everything except their profits are at record lows. And some of this, too, is, I think, the chickens coming home to roost as far as creation of wrestling fans. And we don't know what the effects of a lot of what's going to happen now are going to be until later on when we see, what kind of wrestling fans were created. I go back to this all the time. I know you had a line with Lance on that show saying when you were a kid, things were in the doldrums. That's not true. We're the same age. When we were young, things were at their best. And, storytelling in some ways was at its best. And it's very simple. It's all of those things that you dumped and walked away from with pro wrestling, which are the same things, the same tenets that you went through stories being told from back in the olden days, in the Bible days. Those things still hold up the same way today. Soap operas, the same way. Those formulas still work. And you can be wacky. You can do things that are completely out of the ordinary. You can do crazy things sometimes, but you can do those once in a while. If your stories are solid, if there's something to believe in, if there's something to sink your teeth into, people are going to do that. And throughout history, they've always done that. And the more they've gotten away from that, the more problems they've had. And they obviously haven't had it with their profits or their stock. I get that. With their TV deals, I get that. But with creating people, they're going to stick with you forever, the same way that we have. When you look at their demographics and you see the people that are hanging on and they're still passionate about the product and people that are spending money on it, you look at their ages and you wonder where those new people are coming from. And over the years, they haven't been building fans in the same way that they used to. And that, I think, really, there's something to be said about that. Even with everything going on, when you've gotten away from pro wrestling, you're not making pro wrestling fans. The dedication's not there. What exactly are you making? What is a WWE fan anymore?
There are few new fans. I would say there are no new fans, but like every now and then someone calls and says they got into wrestling 2 years ago, and I'm like, what?
And here's the thing,
there's very few.
For those people, if they're only checking out, if they're the new WWE fan that is capturing a lot of what they think is taking place because they're catching the highlights or they're catching like this show on the network or they see maybe this extended thing, how many of those people are watching the 5 hours of TV plus the 4-hour pay-per-view every month? Those people are becoming less and less. There may be more people checking out the network or checking out quote-unquote hours on the network, but how they're dedicated into the product and how they feel about the product. I mean,
well, here's a few things. There aren't more people checking out the network. There were fewer the people. Think about this: the number of hours that people watched over WrestleMania weekend was fewer this year than last year, and WrestleMania and TakeOver were both longer. So fewer people are watching the stuff on the network. Fewer people are subscribing to the network. I mean, the company lost money this quarter. I mean, yeah, they're a $7 billion company, but, I mean, they're not swimming in profit. They will be swimming in profits come this fall and next year and the year after when these TV deals come into. But that's one of the reasons the stock was down, is because, yeah, they know money is coming, but they lost money on almost everything this quarter. That's how bad this quarter was. So I'm sure next year or next quarter it's got the WrestleMania stuff in it. I'm sure they're going to do better, but still, I mean, they had expectations. I can't remember what they were, but like 19 million or whatever, and it was like 12 or something. I mean, they were way down from what they were expecting. And one of those reasons is, I love this. They're making less money now because they're spending more money in anticipation of money coming in the fall. Which, okay, that money is guaranteed to come in the fall. That's fine. But like the question I have is, what are they spending all this money on now that they're going to recoup in the fall? And the answer is, they're spending like a ton of money on signing people to deals that want to leave to keep them from going somewhere else. That's one of the things. And aside from that, I don't know what they're spending their money on. Yeah, I watched the show and I don't see a huge difference. We're like, oh my God, they're spending more money on pyro. I don't know what they're spending that extra money on.
Yeah, so they have the richest talent roster in the world of all time that still they're not utilizing to get ratings with. You know, they're just literally just signing to keep away from other people. It's just, I used to argue this, not with Dave, but he'd bring it up, but like, you know, it's like, I don't want to see wrestling become the Harlem Globetrotters. Well, it is the Harlem Globetrotters. Like, no. Aspects of a touring group, that's the same as the Harlem Globetrotters, but for people to look and go, oh, that's cute, let me pay attention for a minute because it's WrestleMania, and then fade off again, and them banking on that you're going to come back for WrestleMania, and it's okay if you fade out again, and oh, that's cute. It's just that thing that fills time on Wide World of Sports if I get 5 extra minutes to see it. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think that that's the path that you want to take, and that's seemingly the path that they're taking.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
This is Jim from Virginia. How you doing,
Yes,
guys?
What's happening?
I noticed today online I was checking through the news and said that Charlotte Flair is going to be driving the pace car for the Coca-Cola 600 on Memorial Day.
Sure is.
I like that.
That's awesome. I think it is very awesome. And I was watching Ring of Honor this weekend. I want your take on two things. What do you think of the beautiful people being reborn as a lure in ROH?
I mean...
Thumbs down.
Well, here's the thing. We'll see if it gets over, but like, when I saw the beautiful people are reforming in 2019, I mean, my first thought was, I don't think Ring of Honor needs the beautiful people reuniting in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
What was your second question?
What's your take on I forgot the guy's name.
Bully?
I'm going to ask you about Dalton Castle turning on his boys.
Hey, it was time. If you go back to the show and you listen to the Dalton Castle interview that he did before that pay-per-view, I mean, he was setting up his own angle here on the show. Yeah. And basically talking about how, you know, I haven't been having the kind of matches. I don't have the fire. I need this great match with Rush to light that fire under me and turn things around. And he goes in there and he's immediately beaten. And it was that's what you got to do when you're going to do a big turn. And the big turn was set up and turned on the boys. And I'm glad they're doing something different with him.
Very much needed. Very, very much needed, especially because, you know, with his back and everything else, I don't know what his condition truly is or anything like that, but to transition away from what he was, you know, either to get him out of the ring completely and just be a mouthpiece and just be, you know, a guy that can do commentary and something like that and make him more part-time, I think that would be good if he just needed to change so we could change his style in the ring, and, you know, that's fine too, but it ran its course. It's too bad because when he got that belt, it looked like it was going to be a new time for Ring of Honor, and it just unfortunately didn't work out because of his injury, and they needed to go back to lethal, and they went ahead and did that, but it really caused a problem for them, and we'll see what happens now with this new character. When it comes to the Women of Honor, I mean, I thought he was going to ask about Bully Ray being the one to lay out to Neil Dashwood, because that's at least, the direction they decided to go with that, with her leaving the company and him putting her through a table, I guess, and intimating that was him the first time around. I don't know how that's going to work out, too. Now, a significant other with Allure and the return of the beautiful people. It's something, I guess, to try to do something to create some interest with that belt and send people up against Kelly Klein, but you had a bunch of women at your disposal. They had a big cattle call for women coming in, like 50 of them, to try to build up the women of honor. But there have been people out there for quite some time, and they haven't bothered to look at them, and they haven't bothered to try to fit them in. They had Stardom at their disposal, and they let that go. So I'm not feeling too confident about anything they do with that women's division until they prove they can do something with it.
Okay, I got to get this in before we run out of time. So I don't want to get into this Saudi Arabia argument I had with Dave again, because it was... Anyway, speaking of Saudi, this is from The Observer. Dave's talking about Saudi Arabia. This is a stat that has come through in a unique way. Someone on our message board mentioned being turned off WWE because of them going to Saudi Arabia the second time, and that a lot of people were, and wondering if that's part of the reason for the decline. This is from The Observer. Dave writes, so my thought was the only way to know is to compare the year-to-year drop pre-Saudi show and post. For the 6 months prior to the Saudi show, the year-to-year drop on Raw was 9.2%. Since then, the average weekly drop is 19.8%. Keep in mind there's an artificial actual decline that year that should make this year look better because 2018 was a Winter Olympics year. Either the product has gotten far worse to a marked degree since November, which is not the case, he wrote, or there are external forces at work. That's my issue. You can't say that's not the case. The show has got markedly worse since November.
Yes.
And on top of that, as somebody noted on the board, here is the year-to-year ratings drop starting February 25th through this week, okay? February, which was 3 months after Saudi Arabia, to today. February 25th, it was 8.1, and from there, 8.1, 10, 15.9, 19, 23, 21, 25, 26, 23, 29. That's since February. That has nothing to do with Saudi Arabia. That has to do with the show sucks. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Talked about this earlier, but this person texted to say, do you care to evaluate your 2019 prognostication? I believe it focused on the post-WrestleMania shakeup. I will, as fairly as possible, evaluate my prognostication. I predicted that since everybody thought that at the draft this year, they were going to bump up SmackDown like crazy, and SmackDown would become the A show because they're going to Fox, and they've got to be the A show if they go to Fox. My prediction, to be fair, I'm pretty sure my prediction was, I think that people will go, what in the world, SmackDown got the shaft? So that didn't happen. But they absolutely did not get bumped up to the point where they're the A show. If anything, SmackDown and Raw are pretty much equal right now. So I would not give myself the winning prize in the prognostication, but I will give myself credit for the prediction that it would not be boosted to the level of the A show, because there's so much time between now and October that I just knew that Vince was not going to do anything that was going to jeopardize Raw's position as the A show, at least until September or October, when they actually absolutely had to make the change. Yeah. So that's what's happened, and Roman Reigns is opening up Raw tomorrow. He's a SmackDown guy. So there you go.
That shakeup is going to go on into the fall, into football season, into the new fall schedule, guaranteed.
It's an infinite shakeup.
Yes, Brock Lesnar, Goldberg, whoever, it doesn't matter. Whoever ends up on SmackDown, when they end up on SmackDown, that's how that's going to go.
All right, we're out of time, everybody. I want to thank you all for listening here today. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. And replays up on Saturday, twice a day, which you can now hear on Sirius Satellite Radio as well. So check your listings. And we'll be back tomorrow with more, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. Thanks, Mike, as always, callers and listeners. Scott and everybody in the studio, we'll talk to you again next time. Wrestling Observer Live.